Okay, my outstanding friends, that have been with me for a long time here know exactly what I'm showing, and everything I show, I present factual material evidence. I'm a material scientist. Now, Mudfossil University, I started because I had to do it because the big universities are not doing their jobs. They just refuse to do their jobs. Okay, my friends, this is the real issue. Students are really scared to death to talk to their professors because they will fail them. They have an attitude like, "Don't you dare question me." And here it is right here.
The sentiment is already there. Like, these people in the universities, these professors believe in this nonsense. They believe that they are somehow right in what they think, and that because you are a student, it's my job to fix you or to punish you. And it's like, a professor is a human being. They make errors themselves. They should not be revered. They should be questioned. That's how you learn, by questioning, right? And these professors don't get questioned. Like I said, in the classroom, there's already a fear. People don't want to speak.
Let me tell you something. I hear this every day. I say, "Why don't you ask your professor?" I can't. They told me that if I come back with any of that nonsense again, I'll be out of here. That is basically, and the teachers can't talk about it. Even the ones that want to. I get it all the time from teachers. They say, "I'd love to speak." And some of them have, and they were literally, I don't know whether they're fired or not. I never heard back from them. I got a feeling that they were just let go or told, just you keep your mouth shut. And they didn't want to get involved again, so they just withdraw. And this is an issue. Now, I'm pointing the finger at Yale, to be perfectly honest with you, because all of my discoveries, I went right to Yale, right down the street, and they refused to look at it. So then I said, well, I'll go somewhere else. Everywhere else I went, they said, "You're right down the street from Yale. Why don't you take it there?" I said, "They won't look at it." They said, "That's because you're an idiot." Okay, I did my due diligence. I had DNA tests done, I had CAT scans done, I had anatomists, I had chemistry, I figured out the process, nucleophilic substitution. All my tests came back positive. They had excellent quality DNA, and they're here to be tested by anyone. This was quite expensive. I was the first one in the world to have ancient DNA done on human samples. And they successfully amplified all of the stuff, and it came out excellent quality DNA. And whoops, this is a lung. This is a human lung, and it's fully understood now completely, and it's still denied. That's fraud. That's fraud. As far as I'm concerned, the professors that I have approached refuse to see this. Now, are they just that incompetent that they can't understand what DNA is and what physical specimens are, and even new species that I would like to have looked at? This is a human foot, or some kind of foot. That's where the bone sat in the back. This is where the fibula sits. That's the tibia, and it has the toes built in. And we have a lot of these. I have a goose right here. The goose is feathers and everything preserved. And I understand the process, how it preserved. It was in a hot, salty water flood. And Velikovsky recorded this 3500 BC, 1500 BC, 3500 years ago. All of this was recorded. This is not allowed because it destroys the evolution. It destroys virtually everything they've been talking about. And it puts Jesus Christ in the center again, who was supposedly why these universities were founded. I think Harvard was founded on the fact of Jesus Christ, and I think same thing at Yale. And they believed it up until we became enlightened and said, forget about all that nonsense, and if you bring it up, we'll ruin your life. And that's what's happened. And I feel as an injured party, and anybody that's going to college right now for any of this stuff, geology, history, archaeology, anthropology, they are all injured parties. All right, I'm just going to show you why I'm so frustrated. This goes back to July of 2015. This is to Yale, to Derek Briggs in his department there. I said, I did the test, the DNA is confirmed, and life was the origin of the mud fossils. The sequence are damaged, but the lab has more ways to look at the mitochondrial piece. CAT scan's very clear. And the primates have nails. Only the primates have fingernails, and a nail is clear. And I went on and showed him all of that stuff. And I finally, I said, Armand, who is Derek Briggs' assistant, I said, I did everything you said would be required before my specimens could ever be considered authentic. Not just, all I want to do is look at them. I don't want them to consider, say, okay, now they're authentic because you did all that stuff. We don't have to see them. I said, I want you to see them. Refused. So I got 15 minutes away, and I will cooperate fully. It deserves scrutiny. No, never happened. And you want to see how much I did with hold on. These are all the ones that had to do with Yale. These are all, and this goes back to 2015, 2015. All of these had to do with either talking to Yale or talking to somebody else about Yale, or somebody saying bring them to Yale, or how could they ignore this, or da 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 la 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 la. But you can see all of that stuff is about Yale, and I tried as hard as I could with them. So I hate to be nasty, but you know, at some point you got to come to reality. Okay, like I said, I did my homework. All my stuff is validated 100%. And plus, I went back and looked up all the ancient texts. After finding the giants, I said, whoa, what else is true? If you read Apollodorus 1.6.3, he wrote in like 180 BC, something like that. He talked about Typhon, which was a giant dragon. He was so big his head brushed the stars. He had a red flary eye. He spit fire. His throat was cut by Zeus. He had the thighs of a human and coils of a viper. And here he is right here in the desert. And if you wanted to go back and look at this, come back and look at it. There's a giant fish he was attacking as a giant dragon. I'm going to erase my little doodles, and you'll see. This is his head. He's spitting all this stuff down. That's his back. The tail runs all the way across North Africa. The fish has been invaded right down to here. And here's all the scales of the fish. He was going that way. The tail flares out here. The scales go this way, so the water had to be going this way. Now, there's your fish. That's a fish. I don't care what you say. Now, here's your dragon. And here's the thighs of a human, but it's on a dragon. And that's exactly what Apollodorus says. All right? Here's the fish. All right? There's his tail. He's being eaten away by this invasive chemistry coming down from the mouth of this dragon. Here's his head. All right. Here's his red flary eye. Just like Apollodorus says. Here's all the stuff he's spitting down to kill that fish. All right, so you see his eye. You see all this. His nose comes up around here. Let's just put another little drawing around it. Here's his throat. Now, all of this stuff is just runoff. All right, but this is his throat. All right, well, that's the scales. The throat runs right up in here. That's exactly where his throat runs. And he spit all this stuff out. And it comes out of his beard and everything all over here. Now, other than that, his nose comes up like this. They have a big, funny bump nose. And, you know, I don't know. It's hard. It's all chewed up in the front here. But basically, this is it. He spit all that stuff out. This stuff here, you see these things here? They're on the parades in China. You always see them like that. Now, let's focus in on all of these different things. All right, so let's get rid of the little doodles again. All right, we know that he was spitting out at the fish. who was right down here. And that's his back being invaded by this noxic chemistry. You see that? That's terrible looking stuff. And let's dig in on it close and see how bad it is. You see this? Look at this stuff coming out of his throat. You see that? That is some very, very serious chemistry. I don't know what exactly is laying on there, but I wouldn't want to be walking around in it. Now, again, there's this red flary eye. There's that flashy stuff on the side of dragons in the parades. Here's all his fluty, and it says the same thing. It says his hair was all raggedy and his feathery and everything. Now, where's his scales? If he's a dragon, he should have dragon scales, right? Well, yes, Roger, he should. Well, where are they? Well, here they are. You see these? This is all the way up to here. They're nice and tight on his throat. See them running down here? Here they are right here. And they come in these plates. There's a whole batch of little ones, but they're all in these plates, you see them? And that's the way there, his neck can bend and twist. They all have plates. Otherwise, if it was all one solid thing, he couldn't. Stiff dragon syndrome, they would call that. Now, well, up here, it gets a little floppy around his chin. You see it? Sort of a little floppy, but down there, it's right nice and tight on his throat. And it comes down, all the way down, and you see they're just exactly the same dragon scales all the way down. You see it? That's not your average hills and valleys. Now, I told you Zeus cut his throat. Here it is right here. And he's bleeding out in the desert. That's red blood, and blood makes things grow very, very, very green. In the middle of the desert, you got green coming out of your ears. And the reason is that's cut right across that dragon's throat. Red and black blood running out. And wherever there's red blood, you got a lot of green. Now that dragon runs all the way across North Africa, all the way over to here. The whole length. His head brushed the stars. There's his tail. Still more dragon tail running all the way back out this way. You see that? And they're living right here in his poop. That's where he's pooped. And it's right here. That's where the thing poops. Comes right out of there, right in between there. At one time, that was muscle. You see this? See all those little layers? That's all muscle. And that's how it restricted its poop. And all this is fertilizer. And that also, see these in here? These are all dragon scale things, but those are inside his body. Those are like tubing inside his body. There's a lot to look at on this creature. But his head's brushed the stars. Here's his thighs of a human, it said he had. And then his coils ran all the way out here. And these are coils. That is not just sand dunes. If you go to anybody that's a tanner or somebody that knows anything about leather, they will tell you precisely what this is. And it is leather. All right, some kind of skin, hide, ostrich hide, that type of thing. That's not just sand dunes. You see that? And this was all written about by Apollodorus. Okay, Yale wants truth, and I do too. We're talking about Typhon. What does it say right here? Typhon, a hybrid between man and beast, which was that giant dragon, in size and strength he surpassed all the offsprings of earth. As far as his thighs go, he was of human shape, and of such prodigious bulk he out-topped the mountains, and his head brushed the stars, often brushed the stars. One of his hands reached out, these are the coils and so forth, to the east, and from the projected 100 dragon's heads, I couldn't find those. From the thighs downward, he had huge coils of viper. That's that skin I showed you. And his head was all winged and hair and unkempt and streamed back on the wind. Fire flashed from his eyes, exactly what I showed you. This was written 180 BC. Can we go back and study this from Yale? I think there's enough to show that there's some factual. This is about the giants too. When the gods had overcome the giants. This was all ancient myth. And I'm telling you, it is not the myth that we thought it was. This is an encyclopedia of mythology. This is like about as much mythology as you can get. And it was all, I'm not saying every bit of it was true, but it certainly needs to be reinvestigated. What do I have here? Oh, look at this. They say, well, how could these giants be planets and so forth and then come down and have sex with women? Listen to this. Another daughter of Deucalion, who was Noah, Thais, was also loved by Zeus, who was Jupiter. He's actually the planet Jupiter. And he changed himself into a pigeon in order to seduce a young nymph named Philithia. Among the other mistresses of Zeus were Thylia, daughter of Hephaestus, and it goes on and on and on. And if you read Apollodorus, it'll just knock your socks right off of your feet. This is serious stuff. It is serious. I mean, it's thrilling, but it is serious because I'm not going to go into why. I'm not going to go into anything deeper than the material evidence. That's it. Case closed. Okay, I'm going to just tell you something right now. They're talking about truth at Yale and how important it is from President Salve. And I find it difficult to believe that that's actually their motivating, desire is for truth if it flies in the face of their authoritarian dictatorship of you say what I say or we'll fail you. Because right now they're going to look kind of silly. They wouldn't look bad. They would have been fine. 10, 12 years ago, if Derek Briggs had just stepped up and done his job, everything would have been fine. That's what I expected. But instead, I was assaulted by everybody, by literally everybody. In academia, it was just an outright assault. And but here's how they feel about truth. Is what they say at Yale University. Truth is just absolutely paramount.
It is truly a thrill to welcome all of you, our entering students and your family members, to our campus for our Yale College opening assembly. Today is the official start of your undergraduate education at Yale. And on behalf of all my colleagues here on the stage with me, we're delighted this day has arrived. As you know, Yale's motto is light and truth. Lux et veritas, in Latin, Urim Vetumim in Hebrew. And you will see it etched ubiquitously on crests around campus. Today I want to speak with you about the part of our motto we share with many other universities around the world through their mission, ethos, culture, and that is veritas, or truth. For several years now, even as the world struggled to contain a public health crisis, we have witnessed the virulent spread of deceptive information, even outright lies. We've seen an assault on expertise, an assault on scientific and other scholarly findings.
Okay, this is where I come in. I have been assaulted because I have scientific and scholarly findings that are not allowed. It's whatever you will allow or not allow, and that is the problem. They have a fiduciary responsibility to students to act in the students' best interest, and that is not happening now. There's a lot. There's legal issues here, and we need to get this straightened out very soon. If this stuff is suppressed, that is considered academic fraud. When you suppress unwanted findings, it's academic fraud, and that's what's happened. So let's see if they just made a mistake and they just, because there's no way they can miss this stuff. They can't hide from this forever. And I would say that students have some kind of legal ramification here because they just push back so hard. A scientist would examine. That's what science is examination of extraordinary evidence. And my evidence is extraordinary by any means. So I'm going to leave it at this. I have CAT scans, I have chemistry, I have DNA, I have specimens. I just showed you what's out in the desert, and if you look up Apollodorus, it will confirm precisely what is there. How does that square with truth and veritas and all of these different statements from President Salvoy?